They don't tell the story of the outstanding players and what they've accomplished over the years. You can go back and look, starting with Thomas Everett. Thomas was a little guy, and he was drafted, I think, 96th in the draft. But he made the first year all-rookie team, so he did pretty good, had a good career. Benny Blades was there for a long time. And as you go around, Deion Sanders, of course, Deion turned out to be certainly a Hall of Famer for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And of course, you go into each one of these guys and there are stories about all of them. But what you see here represents pretty much the greatest defensive backs of the past 20 years. The trophy on the left with the two players on it was originally designed to be the Thorpe Award trophy. But there's the number of welds required, the complexity of it. It's a very expensive thing to do. Dave Smith, the Midwest Trophy, volunteered to help us out with helping design the trophy and so forth. So Richard Thorpe, Jim Thorpe's son, and I went over and got with Dave and came up with this design, one on the right, which became the permanent Jim Thorpe Award. So this is the one that goes out to all of the winners of the best defensive back in the country each year. These are things that were collected from the Thorpe family. Some of it they've donated, some has been on loan from various members of the Jim Thorpe family. And the one that I think one of the most interesting are the certificates. As most everybody knows, Jim Thorpe, the gold medals for his Olympic wins were taken away from him because he had played semi-pro baseball. But at the same time they gave him those medals, they also gave the athletes at the Olympics scrolls that represented their participation and where they stood in those events. So those scrolls are here behind you. They are the originals. They didn't take those back. So these are the original certificates representing the events that Jim Thorpe won. This is this year's inductees.
Okay.
The people who were inducted at the last August. Each year when we have the new inductees come on board, they'll be displayed in these cases here. Cal McLeish and of course Clem McSpadden over here and Tom Catlin in the center. We have Bob Tway, John Kolb with his 4 Super Bowl rings, and Ted Owens, a great coach at Kansas. Played basketball at OU, but led Kansas to some great wins up there. This room is actually our Hall of Champions gallery. This is where we have all of the members, people who've been inducted into the Hall of Fame. We'll have a plaque on the wall, and of course some have some memorabilia in the cases. This room alone, to me, would inspire most anybody. You add this to the Jim Thorpe story, and you've got 2 of the greatest stories in sports history. Some of our more outstanding people, and these like this one's for Henry Iba. You have one over here for Bud Wilkinson, and these will rotate. They'll change out. There's one case back here for Allie Reynolds, another for Abe Lemons. And of course, those 2 guys are very special to me because of the part they played in getting all of this done and their inspiration. So you have 3 major galleries. You got the Thorpe Gallery that we've seen over here. This is the Hall of Champions Gallery. And then on the next section, the 3rd section, is the All Sports Gallery, which will do exactly what you're talking about. It'll have a section over there for baseball, for football, for rodeo, and basketball, and so forth. Now, this basketball was used in the very first basketball game ever televised in the United States. And it was given to Abe Lemons. It was one of those all-college basketball games. FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, was formed in Oklahoma. Its base was here, and over the years, it grew and has affected thousands and thousands of people. It's part of a major part of Oklahoma sports history. So that's what this is supposed to represent, to tell the story of the historical story of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and its influence on Oklahoma. Now we'll have a story of the Olympians all across this wall here. This will be the Heisman case. Steve Owens, of course, brings his Heisman for that. And we have a lot of Heisman Trophy winners now, so we'll have that whole case will be Heisman Trophy. Shannon Miller. Doesn't look very big, does she? Little Joe's silver shoes. And those are game shoes. Joe had a limited number of those he kept over the years, and so he gives it. He says for the museum, these are original. They're not duplicates or painted up. They're the real thing. So this Bob Feenamore's All-Star helmet goes back.
What year is that?
That'd be back 1946. This is Freckles Brown's saddle. Freckles Brown, of course, is the guy who rode the unrode bull, and Tornado was the bull, and Freckles rode. That's Freckles' claim to fame. And this is Jim Shoulder's Friday good luck uniform. His red jersey and white hat. This is his spurs, which you don't see. Cowboys don't turn loose of those very often. Of course, the Steelers helmet is Clinton Thomas's, as are these shoes. Walt Garrison, we went down to see Walt at his ranch down near outside of this side of Dallas, and he was giving us some items for the Hall of Fame, and it had several things from that were OSU, Oklahoma State related, but nothing for the Dallas Cowboys. This is the national championship, the Pro Bowl or whatever, NFL championship football, signed by some of the greatest people: Jethro Pugh, Roger Staubach. I mean, it's got the names of all the greatest Cowboys in the country. We got to get in a pretty good golf section. We've got some great golfers come out of this state, and so this section over here will represent the best of the bunch. You start looking again down the list of great baseball players, and it's amazing. Who's the greatest catcher in baseball history?
Yeah.
Yogi Berra? Yeah, maybe, but how about Johnny Bench? I had one of the things that was I thought was one of the most fascinating things to me was Allie Reynolds took me down to see Warren Spahn one day at his ranch, and to sit there next to those two guys and listen to them talk about the greatness of baseball and who was the greatest player in baseball history was fascinating as they could be. And they talk about Ted Williams and what he could do, and Joe DiMaggio. But the guy they thought was the best natural athlete, baseball player, was Mickey Mantle. Mark's quite a basketball player. Doesn't get a lot of attention in Oklahoma, but the Oklahoma press, because the Cavs didn't play here. We didn't have professional basketball till recently, but he set the free throw scoring record. And the guy was fantastic. And then we, of course, get into the Harlem Globetrotters. And two of the greatest were right here in Oklahoma. Geese Osby, and Geese was the clown prince of basketball. He'll come to our Hall of Fame luncheons, dinners, and so forth, and he's still up there. And of course, Marcus Haynes, the greatest dribbler, and he played basketball right on up into his 60s. The only time they ever did a leather jacket that wasn't that standard like you see all the time. That was Myron Rodrigues.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
So this will be a wrestling and boxing area, it looks like.
Uh-huh.
Sean O'Grady stuff over there,
right.
That is?
Uh-huh. And this is Danny Hodges, one of Danny Hodges' championship belts.